The Cliffside Panic, a family camping story. When I was a kid, my family loved camping in France. Every summer we packed the car so full, it looked like it was held together by hope and bungee cords. Bikes on the roof, tents jammed in the trunk, and my brother and I squeezed into the back seat like luggage with opinions. We ended up at this campsite near a river, the kind of place where the showers were always slightly colder than expected and the ground was somehow made entirely of rocks pretending to be dirt. But it had a beautiful trail running along a cliff that overlooked the water, and that made it feel like a proper adventure. One afternoon, my brother and I went biking on that trail. He was faster than me, annoyingly faster, always showing off with little skids, jumps, and dramatic turns like he was auditioning for a commercial nobody asked him to be in. The trail wound right along a cliff, maybe 15 meters above the river. Dangerous for normal families, perfect for ours. At some point, he sped ahead around a bend and disappeared. This wasn't unusual. He liked doing that, racing ahead and waiting somewhere just to jump scare me. So when I turned the corner and didn't see him, I wasn't worried. But then I noticed something. On the ground, right next to the cliff's edge, lay his bike. Just dumped there. The front wheel hanging a little over the side, the handlebars scraped, the whole thing looking like it had been abandoned mid-crash. That's when my stomach dropped. I called his name. No answer. I called again, louder, still nothing. Suddenly, every dramatic movie scene I'd ever seen burst into my brain at once. I imagined him tumbling down the cliff, lying in the river, broken, injured, or worse. My heart was pounding. I ran back down the trail, shouting for my parents. Within seconds, my family was in full emergency mode. My mum sprinted up the trail like she had superpowers. My dad was shouting instructions to no one in particular. A random French couple got involved, even though they had no idea what we were saying. Panic spreads quickly, and apparently it's multilingual. We searched the cliff edge, the bushes, the riverbank. My dad shouted my brother's name so loudly that a fisherman on the opposite bank shouted back something in French that I'm pretty sure was either calm down or stop scaring the fish. Minutes passed, very long minutes, and then even longer minutes. Probably around 30 in total. But 30 minutes feels like 3 hours when your brother might have plunged off a cliff and his bike is lying there like a crime scene exhibit. My imagination got worse. Every scenario got darker. At one point, I was convinced we'd have to give statements to the police. I pictured a sad family dinner years later where no one mentioned his name. And then, I saw movement down the trail. Far away, a small figure appeared, strolling casually toward us. It was my brother. Perfectly fine. Not a scratch on him, walking like he'd just been out picking flowers or pondering the meaning of life. Completely unaware that the rest of us had spiraled into full-blown disaster mode. My mum ran toward him, yelling his name. My dad was shouting something that was probably supposed to be a question, but came out sounding like a fire alarm. My brother just looked confused. "What?" he asked. My dad pointed at the abandoned bike by the cliff. "What happened? Why did you leave your bike there?" My brother looked at the bike, then looked at us, then shrugged. "Oh," he said casually, "I really had to take a shit." And that was it. The mystery was solved. Apparently he had been biking, felt the urge, the kind of urgent, unstoppable bodily alarm that overrides all rational thought, and decided that dropping his bike exactly where he was and sprinting full speed back to the campsite toilets was the only option. Cliff. What cliff? Dramatic consequences. What consequences? No. Nature called, immediately. And everything else, including gravity, was irrelevant. I wish I could say we all laughed right away, but in truth it took my parents a good 10 minutes to transition from panic to relief to irritation to laughter. My brother, however, thought the whole thing was absolutely hilarious. He kept saying, "I told you guys, when you gotta go, you gotta go." Like he was delivering philosophical wisdom. In the end, nobody fell off a cliff. Nobody needed rescuing. The only real tragedy was the emotional roller coaster we put ourselves through, and the fact that my brother's bike had a bent handlebar from being yeeted onto the ground mid-poop emergency. But for years after that, any time my brother left a bike somewhere weird, my dad would say, "Better check the toilets. He probably just had to take a shit." And honestly, he usually wasn't wrong.